Hey everyone, welcome back to CryptoCache. Thank you so much again for joining me here. Hope you're having a phenomenal day. If you're not familiar with why the price action is pulling back so hard with Bitcoin, we're going to take a look here at our 0.9% increase on PPI data. It's up 3.3 versus 2.5% expected. We also have a Trump-Putin summit today too, so that could be the reason why we're also seeing a slide here to the downside and just kind of sweeping into that support level for Bitcoin. Furthermore, rising wedge pattern, that's generally a bearish sign, bearish divergences as well on larger timeframes, why we're short on Solana and SUI, and of course, just rounding out the analysis with Bitcoin dominance, CME futures, and the whole 9 yards. So be sure to stick around. We got a good one here today. Let's take a look. Before we jump into the charts, just want to quickly highlight a nice deposit reward bonus and future trading rewards here from Bitunix. There's no KYC or VPN required, and this is available between now and October 30th. Furthermore, if you want to bolster your knowledge to become a better, more consistent trader, we've got a trading academy, community, and signals group. Link down below for that, cryptocache.tech. All right, folks, let's go and take a quick look here. For starters, with our crypto market overview, just to kind of give you perspective. Fear and Greed Index is in good shape. We don't really need to elaborate there. Altcoin Season Index 2 as well. Keep in mind, we're still maintaining above this 1.5 trillion threshold. I would say staying above that is always a very important factor. So it kind of gives us indication that we're in good shape. A lot of altcoins are doing well. Sure, there are some that are struggling, of course. You want to try to avoid those. But generally speaking, we have more positivity in the market. And I think we have more sustainability for altcoins at this point, because every time the price pulls back, yes, altcoins rip down, but we're also seeing a significant continuation or bounce every time Bitcoin starts to slow down, and that's a good sign. At least a lot better than we've seen in previous cycles. Furthermore, we got wholesale price, basically increasing by 0.9%. PPI is up to 3.3 versus 2.5%. That was the expected. So that's going to cause a ripple. That's why 124,500 was our local high. We pulled back as soon as we entered price discovery. So that's unfortunate, but it's just par for the course, right? Fundamental catalysts happen all the time, especially when the prices are overextended. Same thing here as well. Trump-Putin summit today at 3:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Just be aware, things get crazy. Be very careful trading this event. Always adjust your stop loss into profit. So for those who are in our short trades for Solana and SUI, while we have already taken profit here for Solana, 25%, 24% and some change. We still have a SUI trade open at 378.5. So something to be aware of and mindful of. Ensure you always secure profits when you can. Furthermore, too, looking at this rising wedge, just kind of give you some perspective. This is not a terrible situation. We're still honoring our ascending trend. So even though these can be bearish, generally speaking, they do break to the downside. It doesn't mean it's going to, because we still have this trend that's we're still respecting the trend. It's an easy way to understand it. And if we look at our histogram too here, we don't have a significant divergence. If this starts to continue to get momentum, that's when things get kind of crazy. All right. So we don't have that momentum just yet. So MACD divergence means very little. I think it's too premature to presume we're going to go down because of that. We do have a bearish divergence, of course, on the weekly. This takes months or even in some cases years to form or to completely happen. So bear in mind, we're in the early stages here, but we're starting to see a potential top just based on, we're losing strength with our RSI and the price keeps going higher. That inevitably reverses itself at some point. We'll discuss why we're short on Solana and SUI here in a little bit if you missed my analysis from yesterday. But the simple way to understand it is you can see these outliers here, right? Solana, SUI, XRP, they're all underperforming versus Bitcoin. Now, Bitcoin's not doing great by any stretch. That's not what I'm trying to say. But the key takeaway here is that we're entering our support zone, previous high, potentially as a new low here for Ethereum. So that's one I'm going to have my eye on for a long, potentially over the weekend, if Bitcoin starts to stabilize. Speaking of stabilization, if we look at stablecoin, we can see a lot of money's flowing into stablecoin and out of vaults. So altcoin market cap's dropping, stablecoin market cap increases. It's essentially just that standard, money's getting put into holding until it's time to buy. And right now, it's not the time to buy just yet. I think we have a little bit more downside. I would wait at least another 24 hours before considering a long position. That's just my thoughts right now, shooting from the hip. Either way, Ethereum is finally starting to pull back a little bit with its dominance, and Bitcoin dominance is increasing as per usual. These are all just kind of standard things there. There's no outliers there per se. Speaking of outliers, CME futures, we got our filled gap here from Bitcoin on the left-hand side. That's a CME gap that's fully filled, down as low as 117.5. Furthermore, we do have an open CME gap here for Ethereum between 40.73 and 41.85. So if we lose 4,400 as that support level, or that 43.40 to 4,400 range I discussed yesterday, then that would be the next consideration for either a long or a short take profit target. Okay, so that's kind of where we're at there. So let's go ahead and jump on in here to our high block capital and kind of see where we're at with our Bitcoin in back-end data. First and foremost, it's pretty simple to understand, but we have more longs and shorts right now at this exact moment here today so far, those buying the dip. So this is basically top traders average leverage. So we have more leverage in longs versus shorts. We also have a lot more bids than asks, basically showing that people are buying these dips. Okay, that's good sustainability in the overall sense for Bitcoin. Speaking of dips, we take a look here, 116,000, 115.5 to 116 is that open area of, the area of open interest rather for Bitcoin. That's our next area of support along with 116.6. So I'm heavily interested in a long in the 115K range. That's just kind of what I'm thinking off the top of my head. Now, is that an exact science? No, it may not happen, but if it does, I would be more apt to wanting to get into that range because that's kind of where we had some lower lows recently, and we have a lot of interest there. We also have short liquidation delta is high right now, so taking a long right now is inherently more risky. Okay. The last thing that's really just kind of sealing the deal for me is this chunk of liquidation as low as 114. So an average position of between 114 and 115 seems like a very sensible call because there's a lot more liquidation still left to be swept. Market makers only hit that small little chunk there. We got a lot left to go. So just some things to be mindful of in the back end here. Let's go ahead and take a look at the daily and kind of just work our way down. Let's see where we're at here. Basically, the daily time frame is telling us that we're in pretty decent shape, all things considered. We're still over both moving averages. We haven't truly closed below our point of control here locally. So I would say closing below 118K today would be a bearish type of sign because we're closing below that support range, if you will, based on volume in the last month's worth of trading. So it's just kind of something to be mindful of. We're also entering our support range at 116. That's at 0.618 fib level. Once more, has a little bit of confluence there to reaffirm how good that area could be as a support. But pay no mind here. Just because there's a magical fib level there doesn't mean you take it long at that range. We're just going to turn around instantly. Okay. Keep in mind. Fibonacci retracement levels can be more of a placebo effect for a lot of folks. So be very careful following those who only ever use fib levels. It's just a really ridiculous way to trade. It should be a supplemental thing, not a foundational thing. Okay, so please understand that. Either way, I like to reiterate that and reaffirm it. I get like multiple DMs a day asking about that. So I just like to kind of make that a reality, or kind of maybe bring that to your attention. 4-hour time frame, we've broken bearish, no other way around it. We talked about this yesterday, breaking under 50 on the RSI. Statistically, when you're under 50 on the RSI, you're less likely to find the price action to recover and bounce. Okay, so when you look at the price action and you kind of look at how well it does, as soon as it broke over 50 on the RSI, it broke its key level resistance here, moved up here. We just now broke below 50 on the RSI. We'll probably be moving into this 114 to 118K range. Okay? It's just kind of the general consensus here. But overall, there's not much here to really note. For positivity, we're diverging on almost every single stretch of the timeframes that we're looking at here. So even though Bitcoin does have a tendency of rallying, I think we're still due for one more leg down before we pull back. If we do see the price increase, be careful. It's probably a dead cat bounce where the price action is just slowly recovering because people are buying the dips, but there's still more selling pressure because there's a lot of fundamental garbage out there, kind of just reaffirming more fear than greed. Okay. So that's kind of where we're at there. That's Bitcoin in a nutshell. Ethereum, still a very strong coin. I'm going to stick to my guns here and state that 4340 to 4400 is a good solid consideration for a long. I still think it's a little premature to long, but once more, we got some solid support in our previous high range here, which is at 4340 level. Okay, looking to the back end, let's go ahead and see where we're at here with our basically our liquidation levels, and just kind of want to reaffirm. And again, that's why when you trade, you're looking for confluence. Here's that confluence. Here's that open interest area at 4370. So 4370, 4400, 4340, that whole range of 4300 to 4400, in my opinion, it appears to be a good solid support for the moment. Now we are seeing a shift in momentum here. Of course, we're seeing a type of divergence where liquidation short delta is higher. We're at 5 billion in shorts versus longs. So there's more people trying to sell than buy. And the same thing here as well. When we look at liquidation, there's still a ton of liquidation down below. So once more, this kind of reaffirms that 4,300 may not be the bottom. You want to treat it as such between now and then until it breaks. But the concept is if you were to consider a long at the 4,400, 4,300 range, and the price breaks below that, you may want to consider closing that trade and maybe reconsider a $4,000 to $4,100 entry. And that would also fill our CME gap too, if you're not familiar with that. That is still open here, 4,100 about 4,200. So there's a lot of stuff that could happen here, but I would say treating this support range right now carefully would be a good call. Try not to get too hunky-dory on that one. Okay, so moving on to Solana, let's take a look here. We are still honoring our ascending trend, but barely. We've lost our 20-day SMA. The 4-hour time frame is truly breaking bearish. We do have a last line of defense here, 185 if you recall correctly. That has been a consistent number for us, both previous and local. So let's take a look at the open interest range and discuss here, first of all, kind of where we're at. 180 to 177, that's that open interest range, or more like 185 to 177. So that's once more the support range on the price action based on open interest. We've also got liquidation short delta increasing at 2 billion, and we got majority of our local shorts here swept. So I would venture to guess we may see a little bit of a recovery here for Solana. If so, I wouldn't trust it though. It seems very early, very premature, and I think there's more downside to come, just based on how poorly this coin is behaving versus Bitcoin, or it's moving 1-to-1, almost 1-to-2 ratio with Bitcoin, and that's not a good sign. So Solana in a nutshell, I don't really like it. That's the reason why we're short on Solana. SUI as well here. I'll take a look at this confluence. Just a quick understanding here. This is where traders typically excel. In other words, if you see, we have 3 moving averages, an ascending trend. We've got our point of control here. All this stuff's kind of coming together in the 380 to 390 range. So the reason why we shorted in the 370 to 385 range is because we had that bearish backtest of that descending type of trend, but also all these moving averages and a lot of divergences in the 4-hour time frame. We lost 50 on the RSI. We're under our moving average there. MACD's been diverging, and if I recall correctly too, what is it? $4 is just that super solid amount of resistance based on open interest. So if the price does come up to $4, you got that resistance wall that the whales are just saying, nope, you cannot pass this level. That's kind of the concept there. Half a billion in liquidation short delta, so shorts are still in play, and we got this chunk of liquidation as low as 350. It's exactly, well, I wouldn't say the exact reason, but this is like icing on the cake. There's a reason why shorting into a support level can be beneficial if you know that there's a lot of liquidation there. In other words, the whales know that there's a ton of people that are going to have a really bad day here soon because they're taken along at that level. While it's a nice support level, don't get me wrong, it's also due to get swept here soon. So I'm confident we'll see one more leg down. We'll probably see a bearish backtest of this point of control and then a little bit of a sweep over the weekend. Moving on to XRP, this is another coin that's really on the edge of disaster. We're testing our lower descending trend. $3 has been notoriously that strong support level, not just psychologically, but we have other adding, confluence factors there. Our 0.5 fib level is right close. We have our previous highs really close to that too. So generally speaking, we should hold $3 on XRP, but I wouldn't I wouldn't bet on it at this point. Open interest does reflect $2.90 to $3, that heavy concentration. So if I'm going to consider a long on this coin, $2.90 to $2.95 is a much more practical consideration than the current $3 level that's been tested multiple times. I don't like jumping into a key level support that's been retested a lot. It's just not a very safe thing. It's like trying to walk across an Indiana Jones bridge, right? Where it's looking old and rickety. There's all sorts of booby traps. It just seems too good to be true. Those are my thoughts. We can see liquidation delta is at 2 billion. To the downside, not a good sign, and there is still some liquidation left, once again, between $2.90 and $3, specifically $2.95 to $2.97. Okay, so those are all just areas of reiteration letting us know that we're not in great shape. Overall though, truth be told, the macro is starting to shift gears. It was looking pretty decent here semi-recently, but I think we're more likely to continue down. We're losing 50 in the RSI. Money flow index is still kind of low, and we're down below our moving average too, and that's usually not a great sign too. So the overall trend here is starting to break down. I think either shorting a tighter short to the $2.90 to $3 range for this coin, but more importantly, wait for a better time to take a long. This coin is not going to go to the stratosphere anytime soon. I don't care how dumb you are to follow somebody that doesn't know a damn thing about trading, that's going to tell you this coin is going to 500 in 5 years. They're looking for the clicks. They're looking for the promo, and don't give them the satisfaction. All right. Now I'm not one to talk. I cover XRP, but it's mainly because people want to know what's going on. They really want to know what's really going on. If that makes any sense. And this is the truth here. It's not looking fantastic. It's not going to go. It's not going to launch anytime soon. So be careful who you trust. All right, folks, hope you have a good rest of your day. That's all we got for the moment. Be sure to join us over on Twitter, Telegram, and Discord. If you do want to become a better trader, CryptoCache.tech is the site, link down below. Congrats to those who are all in profit here on our trades, but more importantly, welcome aboard if you're new to the channel. Thanks again so much for being an awesome part of my life. We'll see you again soon. Take care.